So, guys, I want to show you something, and this is not a ground news thing specifically, but it was something that I found as a result of them. I'm not sponsored by them. I wish they would give me money because I use them a lot. But something I found interesting is that as Democrats are starting to finally realize that maybe they should stop supporting Israel as much as they have been so that we can actually, you know, get Democrats fucking elected. Like, that's one of the most agitating things right now, is that you have so many Democrats who are so used to the winds of progress being in the favor of them just doing whatever the hell the right does in regards to Israel, that when they started doing their major, like their ramp up of genocide on the Gazans, people in Palestine, when they started doing that, suddenly Democrats were like, oh, well, we still need to do things like say Israel has the right to defend itself. No, just stop saying those things. Just stop saying those things. Just simply say, I do not believe that Israel should be doing a genocide. It's that easy. It's that easy. And you are going to get all of the people who have been fucking trying to throw you under the bus. You're going to get them on your side. Easy as shit. But check this out. When Fox News talks about the Democrats coming in line with reality about Israel, Fox News reports it as Democrats turn against key U.S. ally. But if you look at somebody else, like say Common Dreams, then you get poll shows double-digit drop in U.S. voter support for Israel since 2023. Do you see the difference there? Do you see how this thing, just in the title alone, is being covered completely differently between the two sides? Like, let's look at how Fox News is covering it. So, let's go ahead and make this a little easier to read. Americans' opinions regarding Israel have dramatically soured in recent years, fueled by a surge in negative views among Democrats and independents, according to a new national poll. The results of the survey by NBC News come amid sharp political debates among Democrats over support for Israel's 2.5 years after the start of the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. Just 32% of Americans view Israel positively, with 39% seeing the Jewish state in a negative light, according to the poll, which was conducted on February 27th to March 2nd. That's a C. That's a C. A C change. A C change. What the fuck is a C change? That's a C change from 3 years ago, when Americans held a positive view of Israel by a 47 to 34% margin. Much of that decline in positive views is due to Democrats and independents, according to the survey. Democrats were divided in 2023, with 34% viewing Israel positively and 35% negatively. It's just spouting numbers at that point. It's just spouting numbers at that point. You can read the numbers, you can pause, you can read them if you want. That Americans who by a 45% to 13% margin were more sympathetic to Israel in 2013 are now divided, with 40% more sympathetic to Israel and 39% more sympathetic to the Palestinians. There's been a massive switch among Democrats, from more sympathetic to Israel to more sympathetic to the Palestinians now. So, when you look at the actual article, it looks like it's just data, right? When Fox News is covering it, it's basically just data. The titling is the one thing that's different. Is there anything that's going to be different in the Common Dreams article? A sea change just means notable. Why have I never once heard that term? A profound or notable transformation. I have never heard that term used that way. Ever. That's so weird. Apparently, there's conversations going back by like 3 years about sea change making its way into common vernacular. No, Bonbon, apparently they just mean sea change. Apparently, it's actually an idiom. It just means a substantial or notable change. So the literary character may transform over time. So there's a sea change in Scrooge's personality towards the end of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Tale. Interesting. Okay, so yeah, no, I just have never heard the term used that way. Fair enough. Fair enough. Anyway, support for Israel has dropped across the board among U.S. voters over the last 3 years, with particularly steep decline among Democrats and independents, according to a poll commissioned by NBC News. Overall, the poll conducted by Hart Research Associates and the Public Opinion Strategies found, again, you can pause for the numbers if you really want to read the numbers. It's going over the same numbers that Fox News went over. Republicans overall remained much more supportive of Israel than Democrats and independents, but the poll still showed that GOP support for Israel fell by 9% over the last 3 years. Democratic pollster Jeff Horowitz told NBC that the shifted opinion was a direct result of its assault on Gaza that has killed nearly 70,000 Palestinian civilians. Israel may have had major military success in its war against Hamas, but its actions have badly damaged its standing among American people. So, I'm actually kind of okay with this. I am. I want Americans at large to be against genocide. I want them to be against our lovely, dear leader's attempt at enacting a trans one. I am against anybody trying to support one in Israel against Palestinians. I would like to see more Americans be uncomfortable with genocides, generally speaking. And yet, people tend to be in favor of them. And to give people grace, I don't think it's because they generally want a genocide to happen. Most people are not pro ultra violence. Most people are not pro genocide, but you can twist a narrative and you can make it to where not enough information is given about genocide so that people are very bad at identifying it, right? There's a reason why when you talk about genocide of the natives in Canada, when you talk about genocide for trans people in America, when you talk about genocide for Palestinians, when you talk about these things, most people will deny that any of those things are genocide, despite the fact that that word means that. It's the same thing as when you try to call Donald Trump a fascist. People get really, really all up in arms about that when it's objectively true that he is. He may be the leader of an illiberal democracy right now, but like, he himself is a fascist, and yet people are so bad at identifying what those things are, they'll also get mad at that too. But seeing this democratic shift, it gives me a little bit of hope for a couple of reasons. Reason number one, I have seen so many progressives, granted, vocal minority online likely, but I have seen so many progressives who have basically said that they will not vote for a Democrat solely because that Democrat supports Israel and they are not in favor of the genocide happening in Palestine. So, I can completely understand that shift happening if the Democrats are just trying to make sure that they have more votes. They can go, oh yeah, no, all of our people are not super happy with the genocide happening in Gaza. Second reason is that it may end up being more of a cultural shift. As people are getting more and more informed over what these words actually mean, genocide, fascist, etc., things that we kind of bandy around a lot in political spaces, and people who aren't really plugged into politics spaces will argue to death with us about what those words mean. But seeing those numbers, and hopefully seeing the Democratic politicians will look at those numbers and use them to inform their own decisions, means that people, by and large, might be getting better informed. Hopefully. Zolta says, I can't believe the Dems will ever change. I'm too cynical. Here's the thing, though. They have changed in the past. Like, the Democrats have shifted over time. If you remember, the Democrats were not largely pro-gay marriage, and then they became pro-gay marriage around the time of the Obama presidency. The parties can change because the parties are made of people. Dorita says, I used to be pro-slavery. True. The Democrats were the ones who desperately wanted to keep slavery, with the Republicans being the ones who wanted to, the Republicans were the ones who were not able to keep the country together originally because they wanted to abolish slavery, and then, the Republican Party shift happened. Bongos Blinted says, even people in political spaces can't agree on the definition of those words, and many just put those labels on those they disagree with. Right, but at the same time, I think that even that is a thought-terminating cliche, Bogos. I've seen so many times when somebody uses the word Nazi, somebody uses the word fascist, somebody uses any of these words, The first thing somebody says is, you just say that about anybody you disagree with. It's like, again, it's the immediate reaction, the knee-jerk reaction, so much so that even having that reaction to me is its own version of a thought-terminating cliche. I would rather anybody having that conversation simply ask, what do you mean by those terms? If I use the word fascist, I mean somebody who meets a majority or a supermajority, at least 60 some odd % of the 14 points for Umberto Eco's fascist definitions. If they hit over 60% of those things, I'm perfectly comfortable calling them a fascist. For genocide, that's a word that I will only use if I can point to situations where a good amount of the 10 steps to genocide are being taken. And for a Nazi, I typically reserve that word for people who are very pro-white nationalism, pro-eugenics, vaguely anti-Semitic, because that word describes those behaviors typically. If I wanted a broad term to use for just a mean person on the internet or somebody who was an authoritarian regime, I've already got a great word for that, and that's authoritarian. Jessica Davis says Lincoln would be infuriated about the Republican Party today. Well, yeah, but that's because Lincoln exists in a world where the Southern strategy hadn't happened yet. The Democrats shifted leftward with the New Deal, and the Republicans lost all of their voters. And they had to shift right in order to get their voting base. Zolta says, my whole life, it's be tax cuts for the rich and bombs for Israel. Right. But here's the thing. If I believed that there was no way for something to change, then I would not talk about it. I would have no reason to talk about it if I didn't believe that there was some material change that could happen or that I could affect. I am not yet that jaded, and I hope to never become that jaded, because I believe if I ever became that jaded, I would also become profoundly useless. Not to say that I'm terribly useful right now, but no. Jessica says, oh my god, is Greg Bovino retiring? Unsure. Haven't seen anything on that today. But anyway, poll shows that Americans are largely moving away from Israeli support. Hopefully that trend continues. Hopefully Democratic lawmakers will see that and start adjusting their campaigns for 2026 accordingly. Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Britzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagitta, you know I'm not saying that last part, Sylvie Snow, Valis of Seraph, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.